All right, for those of you that were absent today, what we did first in the designer view was add in media sound. Remember, that's invisible, so it drops to the bottom. We also went to sensors and added in a clock. Because we need both of those to be able to make sounds and timers work. Okay, so we got sound, we got a clock. I'm going to go back to my blocks. And the first thing that we're going to code is our variables. So in this game, we need to make sure that we have a score that can count up and a timer that can count down. And this will be the first time we've used variables, and that's anytime something on the screen needs to change based on the game. So variables is over here. We're going to initialize global, and we're going to name this one score. And then we'll make a second one called timer. Since this is a game where we try to make it so that the puck hits the stick, we're going to earn a point. We're going to start that at a score of 0 for the game. And anytime you're testing a game, you want to set the timer something low enough that you can still accomplish what you need to, but that you don't have to wait a lot. So our timer is going to be at 10 to start this game. Next thing we're going to do is program our start button. So when start clicks is what we're going to do first. All right, so things that the start button needs to do are set my puck to where it needs to start, set its speed, and set its interval. All of these happen under my puck. So I'm going to go into here and I'm going to start with saying set the puck heading. So I'm going down, I find it's dark green, and I'm going to set the puck heading. Now this tells it what direction I want the puck to go. Because I want it to be a random place that it goes to each time I start the game, I have to go into the math block up here, and I'm looking for the one that says random integer. And your screens aren't big enough to run 1 to 100. We're going to change that to a 30 to 50. Then I'm going to set puck speed, back to puck. We're looking for set puck speed 2, and that's dark green. We're going to add that. Now to get to playing the game, we don't want it to start off too fast. So I'm going to use a math block to set my speed to 5. Anything lower than that and the timer will run out before you actually get to play the game. And the last one we need is the interval. Now the interval is how often the puck refreshes on the screen. You can't make it refresh too often or the game will run too slow to play. But too slow and it'll look like the puck is just randomly appearing places. So the perfect number for us with these tablets seems to be set at a 10. So that's what my interval is going to be set at. Next thing we're going to do is our stick. Now the stick needs to be able to be dragged with our finger because the puck's going to move on its own. We're going to be the player that moves the stick around. So I'm going to come down here and choose my stick. I'm going to drag it with a finger, so I'm going to choose when stick dragged. And that's when I need it to move, and that's when it gets called, kind of like we did with coloring book. So under stick, I'm going to look for purple that says move to XY. It's the 4th purple one down. I need it to change the X position based on my finger, so we're going to use a current X there. And then I never want it to change its Y position because I don't want the stick to move up and down the screen. I just want it to stay at the bottom. So I'm going to go back to stick, and I am looking for stick Y, which is kind of near the bottom. So stick Y, that gets put right here. And if you test this right now, you should be able to move just the stick with your finger, and the puck isn't really going to go anywhere yet because we haven't told it what to do. It's just going to kind of move into a corner and stay there. Now we need to tell it what to do if the puck hits the stick. So we're going to come down to puck, and we're going to choose when puck collides. It's the very top one, when puck collide with, pull that one out. Now when the puck collides with, and it says other here, which means if it hits pretty much anything, and the only thing it really has to hit is our stick, we need to tell it to bounce. So we're going to set the puck heading. So back to puck. We're going to choose set puck heading to. And we need another math block here because we want it to bounce off the opposite of where it came. So back in math, we're going to choose a subtraction block, which is the, I don't know, 5th one down-ish. And we want it to bounce off exactly opposite of where it came from. So we're going to grab a number, and instead of 0, it's going to be 360. And we need it to go back and get that original heading that it came from. So it's 360 minus the original heading. We're looking for that in green, so it's light green, puck heading. So the code now says that if that puck hits anything else on the screen, any other sprites, which in this case is our stick, we're going to tell it to take its original location and go off at 360 degrees from that. Because we want this app to have sound, and we put that sound checkbox on our designer view, we're also going to create a block that says, if the sound check button is on, it gets to play a collision noise. That means we need an if-then. If-thens are under control. So I'm going to grab that and put it under my heading. Then I need to choose my sound checkbox over here. So I'm saying that if sound on is checked, so that goes here, then I need it to hold the sound player, set it to collision, and then make it play. So I'm going to choose my sound. I'm going to set the sound one source to collision because that's the sound of them crashing together. And then back under sound again, I'm going to tell it to actually play the sound. So now I've got my stick being able to be moved. I've got what happens to my puck if it collides with something else. We also need a score for this. Up here, we set that initial score. If you miss this step, you can't do the next step, so make sure you put that in there. Now we need to tell it that if the puck collided with a stick, then in between these, whether the sound is on or not, doesn't matter, we need to score a point. In App Inventor, you have to tell it to do that 2 ways. The first way is you have to tell it to set the internal score, and then you also have to tell it to set the score label. So the first thing we're going to do is go to our variables, and we're going to say set our global score. And here, we can't just put set it to 1. If we did that, then every time the puck hit the stick, it would just set the score to 1. It wouldn't set it to get another point. So we're going to grab another math block. This time it's an addition one. And we're going to tell it that I want you to set the score to whatever the score was. So get what the goal score was before it hit, and then add 1 more point. This just sets the internal score of the app. Now we need to tell it to display that actual score. We made a label, so we're going to go to score, and we're going to choose set score to, there we go, set score text to. And this one's kind of weird. We have to join the label we currently have with our variable, and for some reason that's under text. I don't know why that is. It just is. So we're going to join, and we're going to tell it to get that global score that we just updated. And then we need to set it with a score label. So we grab an open text box and we just type score in there. I like to put the colon and a space at the end so my number isn't jammed up against the word. But this will make it so that internal score here, and then it displays whatever that internal score got added here. All right, so we've got if the stick moves, we've got if the puck hits the stick, but now we need to do if the puck hits a wall in the game, so one of the edges of your tablet. So that's back under puck again, and it's puck edge reached. So the first thing we're going to code in this is if the puck hits the bottom edge of the screen, which means we've lost the game. So we need another if-then. So go to control, if-then. So we're going to tell it that if the puck edge reached is the bottom edge of the screen. Now App Inventor assigns numbers to each of those edges, and the bottom edge happens to be a -1. This is another one of those where you kind of have to hover on the word to get the thing to drop down because it looks like a variable, but you can't actually find it in the variable drawer. Now, if the edge is -1, that means we need your math block. So if that first edge, and you're just going to have to trust me that that bottom edge is called -1. When you're in class, the drawing is on the whiteboard showing you what those edges are labeled. So if we get the edge and it's -1, which means the bottom edge, we've lost the game, then we need a few things to happen. First thing that we need to happen is we need the puck to stop because the game's over. So we're going to do puck, speed to 0. That tells it, hey, stop the puck, game's over. Then we also need to tell it that we want the canvas to say game over. So now I'm going to go to canvas and I'm going to look for set canvas 1 background image 2. That comes in here. And I need to change that to the game over PNG. So I've hit the bottom edge, my puck stops, my canvas switches to game over. I'm also going to need a timer to stop. We haven't coded it to start yet, but we can still tell it to be done. The timer runs on a clock. So we can tell it that the timer or the clock needs to be off. Now in App Inventor, that's a true-false statement. So we're going to do set clock 1 timer enabled 2. And logic is our true-false. So we're going to set the timer enabled to false. And we want it to say aw because we've lost the game. We're going to code just like this, where we say if the sound checked is on, we're going to set the sound and make it play. I will show you how to duplicate on your iPads since I'm recording on a laptop. I can't do that right now. So if the sound checked is on, I'm now going to set the source instead to lose.wave and then tell it to play. The last thing you need to do is, we're not quite done. When puck edge reached, if it's the bottom edge, we lose the game. But if it's not the bottom edge, we need an else. So you're going to click on this gear. You're going to grab this else, put it inside the if, so that this part is ready to code in class next time.